I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, all my garden enthusiasts and passionate plant people. It's time for the Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing show right here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today. And we got our good friend Marc Boucher-Colbert joining us as co-host here in just a little bit and for In the Gardening because, yes, that's right. It's the third Sunday of the month. And that means it's monthly gardening book club time. That's right, book club time. And we've had a little switcheroo we've done here in the last couple of days. We've got our good friend and previous book club author of the book Climate Change, Resilient Vegetable Gardening. We've got Kim Stoddart joining us here in just a little bit later on the show. We'll be revisiting Kim's really great book and talking a lot about that and climate change and things we can do in our garden and all of that sort of stuff as well. And I'm sure, as most of you have been watching over the weeks and everything, you know that we were supposed to have our good friend Mark Valencia and his new book, 100 Top Crops, today. But Mark had something come up and unfortunately had to kind of reschedule. So we will be bringing Mark and talking about 100 Top Crops, his great new book, and really enjoyed reading that over the last month. So we'll be having him back on the show here in a couple of months. We'll let you know when that comes up here as well too. So unfortunately, Mark's not here with us today, but man, we got saved from another side of the world, from Australia to the UK. So thanks to Kim for joining with us last minute today. Just really, really awesome of her to jump on board with us today to talk a little bit more about her really great book, The Climate Change Resilient Vegetable Garden. So right on. So stay tuned for that coming up here just a little bit on the show. And as we're getting everything started up today, let's go ahead and do the stuff. Let's click that like button, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Bell notification to be notified of all of our upcoming videos and live streams. And definitely share with all of your garden friends out there. Let them know that we're here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, and around 7 p.m. for all of you over in the UK. Greenwich Mean Time. And excellent. Really bright and early though too for Mark. And those of you in Australia. So thank you for anybody joining with us from over there as well too. So thank you so much everyone for being here. Big shout out to all of our replay watchers. Yes, thank you Team Replay for being here with us today. And if you can, definitely jump into the comment section below and let us know you're here. Let us know what you got growing on, where you're growing from, what's happening with the garden, or just drop by, say hello. I love to hear from all of you in the comment section below. And of course, if you're here with us live, definitely join in the conversation with everybody else there in the chat. And we do got roll call coming up in just a couple of minutes here. So just like all of our Team Replay viewers, drop into our chat right now if you're here with us live. Let us know where you're growing from, what you've got growing on, what's happening in the garden right now. Let us know, and we'll drop you a big, huge shout out here in just a couple of minutes for our roll call. And definitely questions, comments, all of that sort of stuff for our guest coming up here just a little bit later on the show. So definitely drop those in there, and we just might feature those during our conversation today and throughout the show right down below on the screen there. And also, we got links down below to our guest. Go check out our guest's links and maybe check out a post or a video or something like that. And leave them a comment and let them know that you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show. It's a great way to support the show and our wonderful guests who are taking their time to be here with us on the weekend, especially today. Kim joining us last minute like this and jumping on with us today too. So definitely go over and show her some support. Right on, everybody. Excellent. Again, too, really great to have you here with us. Just the other day on Friday, I actually posted a video. I've been teasing this out for the last couple of weeks now too, but I finally got out there with the video camera, walked around all the different garden growing spaces and everything, and did a little bit of a early summer garden tour to show you all the things that we've got growing on around the garden spaces. We've got some really amazing tomato plants and cucumbers are growing like crazy. Beans. I've got a bunch of different variety of beans that I was trying out this year, but I think the real theme became our watermelon. I've got watermelon growing all over different spaces, and I didn't quite really realize how much of a theme it was until I really got into like filming this garden tour and walking around and everything, and noticing how many different places I actually put them in, because I had a bunch of seed starts that popped up, and you know how it's like, you know, I only really intended on putting a couple in a couple of spaces, but then I looked at those poor little plants and I was like, oh, I've got to get those and put them in somewhere, find some sort of space somewhere. And so they're basically all over the place in different spots and everything too. But really fun little garden tour to look around at all of our unique garden spaces too. I'm telling you, these growing spaces we grow in here aren't the usual garden spaces that we normally see. We're growing right on the alleyways. We've got cement patios, tons of container gardening, and all sorts of really great stuff growing out there. So I hope that you get a chance to go and check out our most recent video. And as you can see there, our good friend Jay already posted up a link for everybody in the chat. And yeah, so go check that out. And tell me what you think. Drop into the comment section there on that video. Let me know what you think of everything that's growing on there in our garden spaces. As I said, and I appreciate that, Michael. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's wasn't intended. I really, you know, one of those years where, you know, I'm busy doing all sorts of other stuff in life right now. And so I didn't know exactly what I was going to be able to get and grow and garden. But, you know, thankfully for a bunch of really cool volunteers, for one, we got to love the volunteers that are popping up in our garden and all of that. But thankfully for a bunch of those in certain spaces, and some of the other things that you know, kind of came about in some garden centers and nurseries and things that we were looking around at too. The garden filled up pretty good and looks really nice, definitely compared to what my outlook for the garden was as we were getting started this year too. So I'm really kind of surprised. And you know, kind of the theme of today is talking about climate change with Kim's book here too, is that you know, we're things kind of go up and down and kind of you know, in these types of situations. And over the last many years, it's just been such extremely hot here in our valley in Southern Oregon. And I know the heat's really cranking up in a lot of other places and all of that, but man, we've had a pretty moderate summer so far down here. And I think the plants are just loving it, taking advantage of it. So a lot of, you know, a lot of that for the reasoning why our garden's looking so nice versus the gardener himself, you know. So I'm really fortunate that Mother Nature's backing me up a little bit this year. But you know, there are a lot of other issues and things that we're starting to come across and deal with and all of that we'll talk a little bit later on with our guest today about too. So yeah, so look forward to that coming up here real quick as well. But let's jump right into it. I hope you all have been jumping into the chat and the comments here and letting us know where you're growing from, what you got growing on, because it's time for roll call.
My name is Kevin.
Yeah.
That is my name.
Yeah.
They call me Kevin.
Yeah.
Because that's my name.
Roll call.
All right, roll call time. This is the part of the show where we get to give you, the audience, a big, huge shout out and to say hello to all of you who are jumping in with us nice and early here on the show. And of course, We got to start off our roll call with a big, huge thank you to our friend and chat facilitator, Jay Dixon, in the chat there, joining us from Huron County, Midwestern Ontario, Canada, in the lee of Lake Huron. And keep an eye out throughout the show for links and information that Jay shares with us in the chat. And we've got Joe from Muddy Puddles Farm joining us from over in Cornwall, UK. Says it's slightly cooler here with a light cloud cover, and we would really appreciate some rain. We need rain really bad down here too, for sure. People have been praying for rain all this last week, dealing with the wildfire we've got around here too. So yes, it's that time of summer where we're just a little bit more of that rain. Michael jumping in here with us. Excellent. Great to have you here. Says, I ate my last white peach. Peaches. Oh, I got peaches. If you go check out my summer garden tour, you get to check out our little peach tree that we've got growing. It's a container peach tree, and it's flushed with peaches right now, just getting ripe, and they're getting ripe hopefully real soon so I can start picking them off, because I've been wanting to get into those. It's one of my favorite things coming up out of the garden this time of year. Joe says, I'm so into the climate resilient garden. The whole purpose of designing the perennial garden is to thrive throughout seasons like this one. Yes, definitely. We've got Janet in the conversation as well, too. Good to see you. Thank you for jumping in. Look to Nature Homestead. How's it going? What's cracking with you out there? Thank you for joining with us today. Awesome to have you here, along with EE2201. Hello, everyone. From sunny Ohio. Garden's looking perfect. I like that. Perfect. Michael says, from North Alabama, Mountain Zone 8A with thunderstorms today and heavy. Oh, you got all that rain we're looking for over here. Again, too. We just wish we could share things around, right? When it comes down to it. And Muddy Puddles, this is because us Brits are brilliant. That's right. You're brilliant for sure. I love it. Eddie Lyles in the house. Somebody say hi, Eddie. That's right. Thank you so much for being here. All right. We got GT Jr. Grows in Alaska is in the chat with us. Great to see you. It was nice to pop in on your live the other night and see what you've got growing on over there. Thanks for jumping in and hanging out with us here today. Awesome to have you here in the chat with us. We've got Nancy, hello, from northern New Jersey. Great to see you here with us as well. Look to Nature Home says, ever since I removed the volunteer mustard that popped up along my purple perfume pepper, the pepper plant has grown by leaps and bounds. Yeah, sometimes those you get plants that are growing together, or something growing especially containers, but things that are real close to other root systems can really kind of hold some of those plants back. I've got a couple. I mean, you probably see a couple of them in that garden tour that I released, over in my cherry tomatoes. We've got some really good ones right up in the middle that are growing, but then I've got one on the end that's got another plant that's growing right next to it, and it's kind of a little smaller than all the rest of them. So, that's kind of what I think, but I've got plenty of those there too, so I'm not worried about it too much. But yeah, sometimes that can be the case with plants. We've got Janet joining us from Texas, Central Texas, Zone 9A, plants and gardeners all seeking shade. It's warm, hot time of summer, and shade can be nice and helpful, not just to our plants, but to us as well, too, for sure. Michael says, I'm going to try my hand at growing things in tropical veggies. Yes. Excellent. Yeah. Try some things that you wouldn't normally think you can grow, experiment, have some fun in your garden spaces. That's for sure. Definitely. All right, everybody. Again, thank you so much for jumping in here for our roll call today. And if you didn't get in yet for our roll call, continue to jump into the chat and let us know that you're here, where you're growing from, all of that sort of stuff. And we'll continue to show those throughout the show there at the bottom of the screen. Really appreciate all of you being here today. And Michael says, if I could send you the rain, I know if we really could, it would be really nice for sure. Right on, right on. Excellent. Again, thank you, everybody. It's let's get moving along today because it's the third Sunday of the month, and on the third Sunday of the month, it's not only our book club, but it's also our good friend Mr. MBC joining us live here in for In the Garden. We've seen him last week sharing all of those just awesome watering containers and all of that too with us for In the Garden, but we got him here with us live, so let's jump right in, see what's going on with our good friend Mr. MBC. All right. Here he is, our good friend, Mr.
Hey, everybody.
MBC, joining us here for In the Garden live. Always great to have you here live with us, Marc.
Always, I hope I'm alive. I got to pinch myself, make sure I was staying. It's always alive is a relative word, like, right? How alive are we? We can always be shooting for more. But I've had my coffee. I'm feeling pretty alive this morning.
That's right. Got my coffee right here too, just getting going.
As you were saying, Enoch, we're having a cooler than average summer, I would say, or at least average. It feels like a summer of 30 years ago in the Portland area, at least, not a summer from like 5 years ago. So I've been grateful. We had cloud cover this morning. The sun's broken through now, but we had cloud cover, which is just not the usual pattern for July. Usually it's been very roasty and toasty.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, people get caught up in these, and we'll talk a little bit more of this as Kim gets on and we get into, her climate change book and everything too. But a lot of folks get this black and white thinking, I remember seeing some politicians show up at Congress or something, in the middle of winter or something like that, grabbing a snowball and look, there's snow, and then says, climate change isn't real and all this sort of stuff. You know what I mean? And it's this, there's this real black and white thinking about how things are supposed to be in these sort of situations, and things actually fluctuate and can go up and down. And, and we've seen over the last several seasons now, I've been kind of thinking like, how far back, do I really remember? Again, thinking about wildfire. We've got a wildfire going on right now. How far back do I remember this? How far back do I? And I'm like, at least over the last now 10 years, really 10 years, decade or more now of this just rising temperatures, more and more drought type conditions and everything, But we're just in one of those kind of fortunate moments of the fluctuation for us, where it's a bit cooler than usual. And I did my summer garden tour for my video and everything, and the plants are loving it and they're doing great. And it's fantastic. It's wonderful. And it's such a nice change from what I've seen over the last few years. But that doesn't put in my mind that, oh no, we're out of the woods now.
Well, ironically, I've been feeling this kind of sort of like a survivor's guilt or a low temperature summer guilt, because when I look and talk with people back east, they've been having a tremendously hot summer. I've already had some heat waves, heat domes. You think about Europe's under terrible heat wave. Canada's burning. Smoke has been coming into many major cities and parts and rural areas of the United States. Terrible air quality. So it's for us right now, we may be spared a little bit of it in where we're at, but you have to look at the big picture, and the big picture does not look good. It's a lot of difficulty and suffering there.
Yeah, it's for sure. And and if you're not feeling it as much there, know for sure that someone is feeling it somewhere across this globe, all over. We're just dealing with different situations at different times, as we're going through this, and where it's going, nobody knows, but it's not good. It's not good.
Like we have to
gotta take the good with the bad, but
look beyond a bubble and see that other people may have more difficult situations than we do, in turn, and rapidly changing climates and much greater effects, like with flooding and such. Anyway,
Yeah,
we'll get
we're
into that.
we're gonna get into all of that for sure. But we're in the garden right now.
Yeah.
And as I mentioned to everybody out there, they can go check out my garden tour, go look around and see all the different things I've got growing on. But how about you over there or up there in Portland? You're up there from me. But how's everything growing there in your different gardens? Remind everybody, Marc gardens in all sorts of really cool spaces too, from your normal home garden, front yard garden, to a rooftop garden in downtown, up on the top of a building, rooftop gardening. And you got a really amazing, awesome school garden because you teach outdoor gardening education there at a Montessori school up there in Portland as well too. So you got lots of really cool garden spaces. Take us through, tell us how things are growing.
Let's just say this, it's an interesting time in the garden because of what I just heard somebody referred to as the Persephone effect, which I like. And prior to this, I was just boning up on my Greek mythology to make sure I got all the story parts right. But Persephone is the daughter of Demeter, who is the harvest goddess, responsible for grains and humanity's sustenance through harvest. Persephone gets captured by her uncle Hades, taken down. She goes missing. Demeter's searching for her, wailing, missing, grieving, doesn't know where her beautiful daughter went. And all the crops start to wither and die. Zeus kind of goes, all right, I got to get on top of this. The world's going to, is going south fast. So he brokers an agreement, and Persephone can come up out of the ground and back into the above ground for 6 months out of the year. But since she's already eaten the food of Hades and the underworld, she has to stay there 6 months. So it gives rise to this. It's explaining the cycle of the earth and the seasons, et cetera, et cetera. 6 months in our latitude of, very powerful sun and growing conditions and warm temperatures. And then maybe 6, or maybe it's getting more like 4 months, or maybe 2 months of not so powerful growing. But the light effect, this is what I'm getting at. Let's just say this: no matter what the temperature is, the light levels are starting to drop. And I can perceive this by the way the shadows are landing. You can see that the sun is at a lower angle in the sky than it was just a month ago. So it's getting visible, getting perceptible. And that starts to influence crop growth. So all that to say, I'm in a rush right now to start getting in some of these last fall crops. Like, got to get carrots and beets planted this week or next week at the very latest. Looking at some of the brassicas. I've been potting up my Brussels sprouts because I don't have the field ready for them yet. So I put them in bigger pots with potting soil so they can keep growing. Then I'll get them in the field in about 2 weeks. Starting to look at things like some fall broccoli, fall cauliflower, fall collards, all those kind of leafy greens that are bigger. Lettuces will start going in about a month for the fall. So it's really just this sense of like, all right, I'm taking care of the garden now, but really starting to look to the fall. Like the fall crops are starting to become very dominant.
Yeah. As gardeners, we've always got to be looking on the horizon, right? We always got to be looking a bit down the road, to get prepared for these other, seasonal crops and things that we're putting into our garden spaces. And it seems kind of different to be, kind of at the heat of summer and everything's, growing and going, and our summer gardens are just really in full swing, but yet we're thinking about, okay, we got to plant these cooler season crops here real soon because things are going to start cooling down before we know it.
And the light levels are going to go way down too. In terms of, it starts to accelerate. So when you're thinking about days to maturity or days to harvest, it's often printed on the seed package or in a seed catalog or something. You're like, oh, this is going to take 60 days. That's good. Well, if you plant something, let's say August 1st, you've got, okay, that's to October 1st. That's pretty good. But if you're in 15 days in the middle of August, now you're going to October 15th. And I've noticed, especially in October, it really starts to get noticeable that the daylight starts to really increase fast. So those 15 days don't count as much as the last 15 days of September, which don't count as much as the first 15 days of September. So you're getting a reduction in light and growing power as you go further into the season. So you have to sort of plan ahead and extend those days to maturity a little bit. You got to plant a little bit earlier to get the full light effect, even if the temperatures remain stable, even if it doesn't get really cold, even if you don't get a frost right away, you've got to account for the light. You cannot control the light effect. That's out of our control.
Yeah. Light really is much like in the fall is the big thing you're looking at. And then like, we're looking at soil temperature, in the spring and those sort of things as well. We want to be looking at those two main things as we're thinking about what we're going to be or how we're going to be able to kind of extend our seasons.
Yeah. But the fall garden, but the summer garden is still something to be relished. We're in the middle of that.
I know.
I'm kind of doing my last plantings of beans. Going to do a big planting of pole beans because I've got some corn growing up. I want to spiral the pole beans around those.
Kind of what is that? The Three Sisters type of idea there too, right? You get your pole beans up on those corn.
Now, you know what I didn't grow a lot of this year was winter squash, and that's because I had such terrible squash bug problems last year.
Oh, gosh.
So I'm kind of giving that a rest for a year, and then I'm going to come back to it next year and see if by kind of taking it out of the rotation for a year. But last year was just terrible, and that's one of those pests that I don't remember seeing years past, even 5 years ago in Oregon and Portland. So
yeah, they got really, really bad over the last several years for me too. I wonder if that's kind of has to go along with, these temperature changes and these things that we're seeing, there's all sorts of different types of effects. And yeah, some pests can really thrive maybe in some of these newer conditions, right?
Yeah.
And those squash bugs, I mean, they were just really tearing up my plants for a while. In fact, I did this experiment like you, and we've talked to so many people, and that it is a really good idea, like you said, to kind of give things a rest if you're dealing with things. See if you can kind of break some of that life cycle, kind of decrease the pressure a little bit. I did skip a whole season, a couple seasons back of growing squash as well too, just like you, and then came back the next year, and the problem was just as bad. I'm like, and here I am. But this year, I'm not seeing them as much. I mean, literally, I don't think I've seen one yet.
Well, that's intriguing. I wonder what.
Yeah, it's so weird. And again, too, cooler season, maybe. I don't know if there's something to do with that at all or not. But I've been really surprised because I've been prepared. I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to keep an eye on. I'm going to guard these squash plants. I'd be like crazy because you got to be right on top of those things.
Oh yeah.
If you're going to have any sort of chance at kind of helping your plants, and then again, too, in all your for me in this sense, because the pressure is so bad, I'm just trying to get these plants big enough, right?
Yeah.
You want to get them big enough so that they can kind of hold off from some of that pressure and grow past it and grow through it kind of thing, because it gets so awful. But I've been fortunate myself, so we'll see.
Well, that's good. Yeah. So what else am I loving in the summer? A big crop of flowers this year. I've been growing a lot more flowers.
Okay.
We have a row of sunflowers that plants itself. The finches come and eat the seeds. They plant themselves. So there's this really vigorous self-seeding row of sunflowers that's just beautiful. It's cool. And then we plant named varieties, and it's a great experiment in genetics because I can start to see the influence of certain varieties that we plant in the self-sowing row. Like that starts to appear, traits start to appear, petal traits, colors. So there's definitely cross-pollination going on with some of the new stuff that we plant versus the stuff that grows on its own. And it's just really fun to see. And I've been bringing, big bunches of cut sunflowers home to my wife, which makes me a champion, a hero in the house. And they're just to me, sunflower is just such a lovely, cheery flower. And I'm just getting an appreciation for flowers so much more as time goes on and in my growing. It used to be all about the veg, but now there's a pretty substantial room for flowers too.
Oh yeah. Again, I love all the different types of flowers that I grew. And early on in gardening, I didn't have that perception, like, oh, more flowers, the more, pollinator diversity, all of these sort of things. I think the garden not only looks better, but performs and does better when you've got lots of different varieties of flowers growing throughout the season.
Yeah. Plus it's just so beautiful to have so much color in the garden.
Yes.
I just love it. It's like, okay, pretty sold on flowers. Always going to have, like I'm a big fan of the dahlias. Love the dahlias. I've got a lot of cosmos. I've just been planting a bunch of zinnias. The sunflowers, of course, are amazing. Some of the basic ones, but I think, what did I say?
All in all, everything's growing well. Flowers are coloring your garden. You're looking forward to fall.
You see the little things. There's always little things like, is that not doing that great, or what? That's not doing that great. But overall, yes, the overall arc has been good.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Like Dusty says, I never used tape to go after squash bug eggs, but those little copper jewels caught my eye. So many that I think Dusty was saying we were I wasn't having much of a problem with the squash bugs, but they've got them all over there. Again, we're just trading around things here.
Is their beautiful copper eggs. I mean, I love the way that copper, it's like just like you're looking at like a little pennies underneath the squash leaf, and you'll see them all arranged in a kind of a triangle, like a phalanx, which is gorgeous. It's a gorgeous little piece of art. But when you realize the nasty little buggers that are coming out of those,
and
I don't know about you, but I've squashed many a squash bug, and they have a very particular stink that is revolting, and you cannot unsmell it once you've smelled it. So those they're particularly nasty.
Yeah, keep it far away. Oh my gosh. Yeah, they're definitely, a kind of a leaf-footed stink bug on their own, right?
Oh yeah.
But the one that's really worse that I don't have and I have never dealt with that folks talk about all the time, and it just is squash vine borers.
Oh yeah, I don't have that. Ooh.
Yeah, gosh, those things seem to be just really, really awful, and those can really just take out a plant more than like a squash bugs, where we can kind of hold off the pressure a little bit,
Right.
I feel for anybody who's got to deal with those darn bugs. Ugh.
I mean, it's quite, being a gardener is a challenge, but there's a sense of intimacy with nature, right? We're learning about all these creatures. We're seeing their little cycles. We're discovering their eggs. We're seeing predators come and prey on them. It's just fascinating. So I hope people are, even at the time when you're cursing these things, you're still observing natural cycles, and it's fascinating. So we can sort of rise above our frustration and just say, hey, this is cool. We get to be part of nature. We get to see these things that other people never see.
Yep. Turn that. I usually would say, for me as a person who's, feared a lot of bees and flying bugs and stuff, I always say turn fear into fascination. But, we could say turn frustration into fascination as well, right?
Yeah. At some point, you can just decide to declare war, or just say, look, I'm gonna try to live with these things and figure out how we can be together and also outsmart them, right? I mean, the more you learn about their cycles, the more you dig into the entomology of it, you can sometimes take a pause, move a crop. You should be rotating anyway. And there's ways you can reduce the pressure by just pure smarts.
Yeah. Right on, Mark. Well, everything seems to be growing real well in the garden. So let's take a quick break here, and we'll be right back. We've got Kim with us today for our monthly gardening book club. Right on. We'll be right back. 1 minute.
Hello, let's get growing live gardening community. I'm Charles Malky, biologist and co-founder of Ivy Organic brand products. Ivy Organic is based on whitewashing, a time-tested way to protect plants from summer sunburn, winter sun scald, pests, transplant shock, and environmental stresses. Unlike latex or tar-based products that crack, peel, and leave residue on your soil indefinitely, Ivy Organic is truly organic and a healthier alternative. It dries on porous, allowing plants to breathe and heal naturally without rotting. Also ideal for protecting your pruning and grafting wounds. Available in white for maximum reflection or natural tones like brown, green, gray, and grayish. Ivy Organic protects while blending beautifully with your landscape. Choose from the whitewash oil-free formula or the 3-in-1 plant guard made with natural oils to help repel insects and rodents. Protect your plants the smart, organic way with Ivy Organic. Learn more at ivyorganics.com and wishing you all happy gardening.
All right, here we are back at it. And real quick here, everybody, let's go check out ivyorganics.com. Great sponsor. Use our promo code GROW10, GROW10, get 10% off of your 3-in-1 plant guard over at ivyorganics.com. Right on, right on. And
Enoch, I'll say this about Ivy. When I see that commercial, I'm like, that guy seems really knowledgeable and really interesting. I want to meet him someday. So does he have a book, Charles?
He does have a book, actually. Maybe we should think about that sometime, for sure.
I feel like he's got wisdom there, and he's putting out a good product in the world. So it's like, oh, that'd be the kind of person I'd want to talk to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he's really great. Really appreciate everything that he's done and his support for our channel and show and all of that sort of stuff over the years. One of those people I met early on in my whole gardening YouTube adventure and all of that. And he's just been super supportive and everything, him and his family run business, and, the kids and the wife and everybody all working together, putting together just really great products and stuff as well too. So definitely everybody go check out ivyorganics.com. Real quick though, quick mention before we get moving on here. I know Kim's waiting in the background here right now for us. So we originally intended to have our good friend Marc Valencia from the channel Self-Sufficient Me for his book 100 Top Crops. Let me get that on there. And great book, been really enjoying it and everything.
Really
but something came up last minute for Marc that was just something he had to do. So in the long run, we rescheduled. So we will have Marc in 100 Top Crops with us down the road in a couple of months. We'll let you all know about all of that information when it comes time. But just did want to mention that for anybody else who was like, hey, wait a minute, what happened to Marc? We've been promoting him all month and everything. So, yeah.
This is the challenge of live programming, right, Enoch? People have lives. That's the other part about live programming. They have lives and things come up, so the best laid plans don't always hatch correctly.
Yeah, that's right. And for the most part, things are pretty successful. We got a pretty great run right here on the monthly gardening book show. Only a couple of times have we had to scramble and figure something out or anything. But and one of the great, awesome times that we had early on with our book club too was with this book here. I get that right there. Climate Change Resilient Vegetable Garden by Kim Stoddart. Really enjoyed this book when we got to review it and everything. So it's really kind of cool. And especially with everything that we're talking about earlier and everything, that we can kind of revisit this book a bit and talk a little bit more about climate change, our vegetable garden, all of that sort of stuff. Kim's also an editor of a garden magazine and stuff. Maybe we'll dip into some garden writing and things as well too. But let's, without further ado, let's go ahead and get this monthly gardening book club started. All right, so let's welcome to the show, back to the let's not take you out. Let's put you in. Kim Stoddart, joining back with us here. Back again on the book club. Thank you so much again for jumping on with us. So last minute and everything too, really, really great of you to come in and join with us on our show today.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure to be here. It's lovely to get your invite. Always happy to help out.
Yeah. Excellent. And again, as we were talking a little bit earlier, lots of things going on climate change wise and everything. We touched on a few things earlier. So, really kind of a good time actually to kind of take a moment to revisit this really great book again, The Climate Change Resilient Vegetable Garden, and really wonderful book that you wrote But before we actually dig into that, let's give you a minute here, though, to tell us a little bit about what's been going on since we saw you last, how the garden's growing, what you've been up to, all of that sort of stuff.
Thank you. Lots has happened. Goodness, I think almost the perception of time is slightly skewed at the moment, isn't it? Because, but the magazine keeps me obviously very busy. I've got lots of exciting projects on the boil as well. From a extreme gardening perspective, my homestead is running very low on water, so I can talk about that. But yeah, lots, gardening wise, what a joy as well. It's just so important just to connect with the garden, whatever the weather throws at us around the world, just to find the opportunity to sow some seed, to connect with the lovely produce that we're growing, and to enjoy being in the moment. I just think more than ever, it's so important to try and switch off from everything and just walk around your garden, look at the plants, connect, look at the wildlife, and just try and find some opportunity to be at peace with the natural world. There's an awful lot of solutions there as well. And our gardens are also a massively nurturing space that we can turn to and enjoy.
Yeah, I really feel that, though, too. I mean, as I've been mentioning throughout the show, I just went out for the first time, broke out my camera to film a little look around the garden space to share with everybody. But I've been doing what you're saying for the last several months now, is just kind of taking the time to actually, pull myself back from all of that other stuff that I do and just kind of enjoy the space, and do some gardening, when it comes down to it, and really taking the moments to reflect and, allow my time in that space, because it's just so great to, recharge in a sense, utilizing that space.
It is. And the natural world, the sights, the sounds, the flutter of a butterfly, all of this can just massively soothe you. And when you're dealing with extremes of weather, then actually there is an awful lot of problem solving that's potentially needed. And it can feel incredibly overwhelming. So it can feel really overwhelming. So taking time away just to connect, walk around, use movement, pick some nice salad leaves, just tune into what is working really well, will actually help to clear space in your brain for ideas to come forth. So it's good for you in so many different ways. I think we need it more than ever as well. The natural world just soothes us.
I'm going to admit here that I fully agree. And I love to water my garden by hand. But I notice that sometimes I have a temptation when I'm watering, I'm like, to pull out my phone and check messages, and I have to check myself. I really have to stop and be like, oh, no, this cannot be happening right now. I have to draw a hard line here and say, this is not for this time. This is downtime, and to have it perfectly, purely restorative downtime, I need to just be looking around. I need to be checking out the plants and not trying to, maximize with some other little task, or even just distract myself in any way. So it takes sometimes the phone has become.
Can I just say, sorry, I can't actually hear.
Oh, you can't.
Are you not here? Are you not hearing me or Mark?
I can hear you, but I can't actually hear Mark at the moment. So sorry, I was trying to lip read. I'm very good at resilience, so I thought.
I think this is what happened with our.
Didn't quite catch what he was saying. Sorry, Mark.
Enoch will have to. I'll talk to Enoch, and Enoch will talk to you.
I know. I know. I think this is what happened with our guest yesterday. Something sort of glitch happened here when we're having more than one guest on with us, I guess.
Oh, right.
So I'm not sure what the deal with that is, but
no. And knowing you, Mark, it would have been really fascinating as always, because I love our chats, and we met in person, didn't we, at the Northwest Town Garden Show
Seattle
a couple of years ago. I don't know, we could try sign language maybe.
yeah, I'm not sure, maybe and I'd hate to do this, but I know that our guest yesterday had to reload and come back in, like leave and come back in or something in order to hear. I don't know if you want to try that or not, or if I could just I don't know what to do. I mean, we could relay what Mark says or not.
Do you want me to try that?
I guess. I mean, if you can. Yeah, that's
Okay.
what Jay's saying
This
as
is
well
the thing.
too.
Probably we're just talking about problem solving as well, weren't we? And
Yeah.
there's always a solution. The key is just to keep calm, and then you figure it out. And also, isn't it a classic that it's often the turn it off and turn it back on again from a technology perspective?
Isn't that
just
it's unbelievable? And again,
So
too,
true.
like I was mentioning yesterday with it all too, this is live streaming. We're and doing that sort of stuff, and again live streaming from across the world even too. So there's bound to be some glitches and things to happen. But let's just give you a minute there to pop in and out there. We'll see. Maybe we'll see
Back
if that works or not. All right.
Okay.
Perfect. All right.
Oh, that's crazy. Here I am going on and on and on, and you can't even hear me. That's so funny.
Oh my. I know. I think this is what happened with our guest yesterday as well too. So I'm not sure what's happening with the StreamYard. Possibly is some sort of glitch going on there. Let's see here.
Yes, I can hear you. Yes,
yeah.
Great.
On and off. Click, click.
Really there we go. How does that even work? That's totally
all right. Sorry, everybody out there.
No,
we're figuring things out here. We're
all in good fun, right? We're having fun through it all. Doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. I was probably saying a bunch of nonsense anyway, so we should probably just get right on.
Do we even remember what you were talking about?
I do. Well, I was saying the restorative part of the gardening is beautiful, and I find even in my own life, I like to go out and hand water and be observing the garden that way. But if I have that damn phone on me, I will sometimes pull it out and start checking things. I'm like, and I have to try to draw a hard line and say, no, this is not happening, or leave the phone inside, just to not create that. The culture is it's gotten to such a level of just constant distraction. Even, I consider myself kind of old school and obviously pre-cell phone, and we knew how to live without that thing, but it's become so attractive in so many ways. It's like the ring from the Lord of the Rings, right? You can't deal with not having it around you, and you get anxious, and it's like my precious. So I've had to draw a hard line and say, no, if I'm going out into the garden to water, it is going to be looking at nature. That's what I'm going to be looking at.
That is so true. I think a lot of people are finding this at the moment, myself included, actually. And I've been making a concerted point of just putting my phone down, like you said, Mark, and just going outside. And what I found from speaking to other people as well, I found there's been a bit of chatter that people have found themselves struggling slightly to read long articles or to read books. And that's because when you're in a bit of a heightened state of fight or flight, whether you realize it or not, because there's so many things happening at the moment, and there is constantly 24/7 things we could be looking at as well, that your brain becomes slightly conditioned almost, doesn't it? So I think it's really important just to find that space to actually just to step away. And certainly from a problem solving perspective, it helps massively with the garden. If you're rushing around and feeling quite fight or flight, it's much harder for you to figure out what to do if there's a problem, if there's a particular type of pest, for example, that you need to figure out what to do with. So there are so many reasons why, but I think an awful lot of people are feeling this right now. I really do. I've heard so many people say this recently.
I will say this, there's one app that I do actually love in the natural world, and it draws me closer to nature, and that is Merlin, the bird identification app from Cornell. And when I hear a little song up in the trees and I can't really see what bird is it, and I don't know, I put that on, and then there's something about knowing that makes a link and naming. And once I can know and name what that bird is, then I hear it again. I kind of have that one particular thing draws me closer, and that seems integrative and good, but all the rest of it's got to be
There's another one called like iNature or something that was someone talked about a couple of weeks ago or whatever. It's similar in a sense where it's, you're just really interactive with nature with it versus, in learning and, you're snapping pictures and recording and figuring, I can't remember. I think it was iNature or something. It's, really, our friend over at Crime Pays, but Botany doesn't. He promotes it all the time for sure. But
he's a character.
Yeah. I was, though, thinking about as you were talking about that, Mark, is like we long for the days when the phone was still connected to the wall.
Oh,
Right. And we didn't have to carry the darn thing around. But then I thought about, I can imagine. I just had this image of people. You remember the big long phone cords, though?
oh, do I?
Right.
Oh,
The
yeah.
big, out in your garden with a big long phone cord leading up into the house.
But what you were saying there about connecting with the plants and the wildlife,
Yep.
it is fascinating. And the more that you look, the more that you often see. So, for example, I make a point of going out for walks in the garden where I can and just looking and trying to understand and connect what role a creature might be playing. So in the case of, for example, of so-called pests in the UK, we've had heat wave after heat wave. So we've got a lot of aphids. We're going to have a lot of cabbage white butterfly caterpillars this year. But, it's looking to see how plants are doing and thinking, do I need to intervene? Do I not? But also, what is that creature? What is it doing? And the more that you sort of tune in and you watch, the more you see that often quite potentially slightly scary looking creatures actually have a really vital role to play. I mean, the classic example is the earwig, which I used to be terrified of. I used to be terrified. I don't know about you, but it's quite a disconcerting looking little creature, isn't it? But actually they are incredibly beneficial predators.
The rumors are the worst.
They will go for your dahlias. Oh, what was that? Sorry?
I was just saying the rumors of them are the worst.
Yeah. Oh, I know. And I've not seen that film, but there is a film, isn't there, where an earwig crawls into a man's brain. But just knowing that there's even a film where that happens was just enough for me at the time. But I love them now. Obviously, I wouldn't want to actually handle one, but I actually actively encourage earwigs just away from the dahlias.
Yeah. When it comes to some flowers, they could be pests. They could be trouble for the most part, but they're not as detrimental to the garden as we think they are.
No.
And they certainly aren't as evil and invasive onto our person as we think they are as well too. I just remember as a kid, everybody talking about earwigs, and you think ears, and then you obviously connotate it to going into your head. Or
they don't have a good name, do they?
I know.
Really, no. We need to rebrand that name a little bit.
Exactly, they need some rebranding.
We got to call them something different.
I mean, they can cause an issue with corn. So when corn's ripe, if you don't watch it, they can obviously get in there first. But generally, they are, again, in balance. Everything is in balance. Some creatures can cause an issue, but they can cause a benefit elsewhere. But with earwigs, they are very good predators. So I've often seen them actually helping, for example, with the likes of aphids. And the same actually goes for wasps as well. So later in the year, wasps can be quite problematic, particularly if it's a barbecue. They seem to like meat, don't they? So, and soft drinks. So they can get quite rowdy then, but they are fantastic at picking. They're pollinators, but also they will pick off aphids. So they are very, very helpful in the garden. And actually at the end of the year, it's because they're dying, which is why they have a bit of a rowdy blowout, I suppose, because they're coming to the end of their natural life cycle. So I think I can forgive them for that.
Oh man.
But
talking about fear into fascination, as I was mentioning earlier, though, wasps was one of those ones, especially getting out in the garden space. I was just like, and until you learn, like, oh, wait a minute, these things are playing a vital role in my space and they're doing things and everything. And then that's when you just kind of take that step back and go, okay, let me watch what they're doing. Let me get in there and see what's happening with these things. And you watch them getting up underneath the leaves and doing little things, just searching out their prey and all of that, the caterpillars and things that are eating up our plants and stuff. And it's just like, wow, this is just really fascinating what they're actually doing and what they're accomplishing for my garden. And it kind of just changes that whole perspective of what they are. Normally I'm running like crazy.
And you can hear them because they land, you don't obviously want a wasp nest really close to your house, but if it's out of the way, then, in my book, that's fine. But you can, if you see a wasp and it lands on, say, a wooden door, you can hear them. And if if you're happy to get close, you can hear them chewing off the wood. They take off very, very tiny little layers of wood. It's amazing. just to watch and to listen to them do that, you can hear it quite clearly.
I have a black and white hornet story that I'll never forget. This is one of these like natural wonders that just bug-eyed. This was early in my farming career. I was sitting planting basil. I was picking basil. So I was sitting on a bucket picking basil for a restaurant, and I was watching these black and white hornets fly over the basil patch. They were obviously hunting. And then all of a sudden I noticed this struggle going on at my feet. I looked down. One of them had taken a moth down and was in the process of chewing off its head. It bites off its head completely, but it flies away with the head like a prize. I'm like, this was better than any Greek drama that I could have witnessed. This is incredible. This is high excitement right at my feet. This is really amazing.
Oh my. Yeah.
I mean, it flew away like a real victor, like a total champion. I'm like, wow, okay, respect.
I know this is getting real macabre, but I have a very similar finding in my garden too, where I found this bug basically holding onto its head in its arms.
Oh, lovely.
Because I'm sure that's what happened, is like it got snapped off and just fell, and it caught its own head or something. But it was the most awful thing. You're like, what in the world am I looking at here?
Yeah.
I mean, nature can be quite brutal. I mean, obviously we know that with the extreme weather we're experiencing, but you get all sorts of things, don't you, like parasitic wasps, and there's all sorts of things that go on in your back garden. It's very much an eat and be eaten world.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and again, it's just kind of how the natural world works, you know, and we kind of in some ways need for that, you know, those sort of happenings and things. You know, I remember someone telling me a while back ago and talking about soil and soil life and everything, and was like, if you could shrink down to the size of like a nematode or something like that, you're down in the soil. He said that it would be the worst horror show you've ever seen in your life. Oh
yeah, exactly.
Because everything is preying on each other and eating each other, and it's just wild things going on down in our soil. But again, it's all of that stuff that's happening, right? That's building this just really great, fantastic soil that grows these just amazing plants and the things that we get to harvest from them, though, too. So, you know, some of that stuff.
We want to connect with our gardens, but maybe not connect too much.
Exactly.
The more gruesome side of our gardens. Oh, look, there's some butterflies and bees. You know, that maybe they're a bit nicer to look at sometimes, but it's all beneficial, and that's the thing, isn't it? You know, something that's a problematic creature, if there's too many of them, say if it's you know, the slug. I mean, we don't have an issue with slugs this year. A couple of years back we had an incredibly wet summer, so there are an awful lot of slugs and snails. Because it's been so dry, lots of drought, lots of heat waves in the UK. We're looking at, you know, other issues now, but it's fascinating how the natural world can come in and assist. So, for example, at the community garden that I run, I'm only there a couple of times a month, and so the plants just have to get on with it. We've had so much drought that actually I was a bit worried about some of the apple trees that I planted, and you know, I could see there were quite a few aphids on a few of the trees in particular. Then I looked again, and there were so many ladybugs. And you know, again, what do? Do you leave the natural world to it? So I sort of intervened a little bit. I removed some of the branches very gently, but I sort of looked at it and I assessed that actually there are enough ladybugs there to assist. So it's interesting, it's fascinating. You know, obviously you do need to intervene, but sometimes you don't. And if you actually look up close and see, you'll get a good sense of whether that's something you have got to do or not.
So, Kim, I'm curious, with all the heat waves that are going on in the UK and Europe and in the United States as well, and your position, you're kind of uniquely, having written this book, you're probably looked to and you're communicated with. I'm sure people are corresponding with you a lot in various things. What do you see? How are people responding in terms of their gardens? Any interesting new developments from what's been in the book, or just where are people at as gardeners with this increasing pressure?
It's very much, I think, a changing issue, a changing thing. I mean, we don't know from week to week, month to month, what we're going to get. I mean, when I first started talking about this, it was more than a decade ago. It was 2013. I was writing for The Guardian, and I started writing about, as I called it then, climate change gardening. I tend to call it extreme weather gardening now, just because I want to focus on the solutions. I don't want to get into the sort of the ifs and the whats and the hows. I'd rather just look at like how to help people. But, you know, at the time I do clubs for talks at gardening clubs, and you'd have to give examples of basically when there'd been an extreme weather event. But obviously it's happening so much now on a daily, weekly basis. So in the UK, it's I mean, there's obviously, you know, social media now is widely referred to, which is great. There is a little bit of concern around, there's a little bit of misinformation creeping in at times with actually some of the advice that's given. But, you know, at the end of the day, people are looking for solutions. People are struggling with the capacity to grow crops, particularly in the cities as well. So you're looking at such heat as well for us, which we're not used to in the UK. From a actual human house perspective, for example, you know, you're trying to, you know, if you're trying to work in an office, or there's issues with school children, care homes, there's no air conditioning because we're not used to this sort of heat. So actually, I was
reading an article about that recently.
Yeah, difficult for people to cope. And then you've got the situation on the ground with the plants. So I've been doing some reels on my social media, on my Instagram, just giving advice alongside, you know, obviously I write about this a lot in the media, in particular in Amateur Gardening magazine, because I do a fortnightly, the magazine is fortnightly. So I do a resilient gardening page. So I'm able to really adapt to what's happening at the time, you know, a couple of weeks ahead, and just to write about what our readers are going to want to know. But there's all sorts of things. So we've got massive risk of wildfire at the moment. So I've been talking about that a lot. So I don't know if you want me to talk about that, because I mean, there's so much I could say. So please do steer me in the right direction that's most of interest.
Well, I'm you know, as I was looking at your title today, a little interesting transformation came into my mind of not just a climate change resilient garden, but a climate change resistant garden. And I wonder if you thoughts on that, because I've been thinking as gardeners, how can we resist and not only like have to face the issues that are coming at us, but how do we help to heal? Like, how do we tip the balance and try to do our part in the space and place and way that is given to us? How would you respond to that? Like, if we change the title of your book to Climate Change Resistant Gardening?
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I think it is. It really is. And it's, I mean, I'll give you some examples of a few things that I'm doing right now in the garden that's helping. So I'll link into that. But it is massively about the resilience of the individual, the actual gardener, as people, individually, as communities. We have to cope with this. We've never had to deal with anything like this before. We've got so much being thrown at us 24/7, and it's really tricky. So you have to really root yourself. You have to look after yourself. You know, we spoke before about, I think we're all going out in our gardens and using them for well-being as well. But there's all sorts of things. I think reaching out to other gardeners, reaching out in your community, sharing ideas, sometimes moaning, actually, it's a really good thing to do. So you can let off a little bit of steam. It's important. Humor, definitely. But also little acts of kindness. I think there's a lot of people, I've experienced a lot of people getting quite road ragey over the last sort of 6 weeks in the UK. I've seen quite a lot of that here. So people are really hot and bothered, and they're quite quick to whatever they might have a propensity for. So if it's anger, there's quite a quickness to anger. So, you know, that's the thing. So I think just reaching out to people, I do that. If I go in a shop, I'll just say hi to somebody, might compliment them. You know, it doesn't cost anything. Just to do something that's a little bit nice can actually make you feel better about everything at the same time. But actually in the garden, on my homestead, because I have a private water supply, it's running incredibly low again. Yay. So, I've been here before. This has been happening since 2018. So it's not just about watering wisely. It's about actually really pushing the boundaries of the techniques that I teach and have written about in my book to see how little water you can actually give the garden. So there's all sorts of things that I've been doing. I've been letting the gardens grow incredibly wild. So, for example, the tomatoes are trailing along the ground because that provides protection. They can actually, you get the shade from the leaves. I do mixed planting anyway. So I've got, for example, winter squash mixed in with lots of other plants. So you've got those beautiful, huge umbrella-like leaves providing shade. I doing an awful lot of mulching, magic mulching, as I call it. So when I water, I'm locking the water in the soil with actually using an application of mulch. So it's not just compost, it's grass clippings. If you can get grass clippings, then it could be comfrey, could be wood chip, but also, chop and drop. So picking off leaves and putting them directly on the ground. So that helps massively. Tomatoes they can root through their stem. So you can do this with winter squash and you can do this with cucumber as well. So rather than just having one place for the tomato plant to actually access the nutrients and the water from the soil, you can get one tomato plant doing that in a few different places, which again boosts the resilience for the plant. It helps it to cope. It's quite Mediterranean planting. In parts of been on holidays to Greece, and I've seen tomatoes growing wild by the roadside. So that was probably the original inspiration for this.
Lovely.
To work with it. So lots of this. I use a lot of stone. I'm using stones around plants, also helping to lock water in, and I'm using shade. So I'm shading plants. I'm grouping plants in pots together. I'm creating shade using all sorts of different things that I have to hand.
Yeah, I like the chop and drop too, coming back to earwigs as we were talking about. If you do have like earwig pressure, like a little bit more and everything, chop and drop is great too, because that'll keep them off of your flowers and other things as well, because that's what they want, is kind of that breaking down plants that are weak, plants that they like that plant litter, and they'll get up there and collect in there and eat up on that versus the other things that you've got too. So that's a great idea in some pest control as well too.
There's so much to say about this. Sorry, so I'm waiting to point me in the right direction and I'll go.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm curious about cities, urban areas. You said they're suffering the greatest. What are the initiatives going on that you would say are, oriented toward food production in the cities that are the best ones that in England? And are they grappling with this challenge? Are they installing extra infrastructure, helping people collect rainwater? How are cities trying to grapple with this in terms of helping people produce food for themselves and such, the survival kind of imperative?
It's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of community gardens scattered around the UK. There's a lot of allotments, but we really need to catch up with this. I'm not privy to anything that's happening that is really helping people to come together to do this. So it's just such a fast moving beast, really, for want of another way of describing it, that it's just, there's so many things that we're just sort of caught unawares with. I mean, I think it's, there's so much around this sense of, like you said, community that is absolutely essential. And also, say, for example, in London, parts of London, it's going to be different to other parts of the UK. There are different issues. Obviously, predominantly it's been heat, but the coming together of people is really big part of the solution with this, learning from the natural world, using trees, for example, more in town planning. I've done presentations before to town planners, and we're just, you can see the difference. I was in London earlier this week, last week, for some meetings. I was up at Kew Gardens, and I was actually at Brentford FC Football Club, and they're doing some really interesting things with growing there. And just the difference, a road that's tree lined compared to a road that isn't, there's such a fantastic cooling impact. And the more that we can plant trees, the more that we can work together consistently, the better that is. There's no quick fix in life or in the garden, but if we're not doing it alone, there's, there's power and potential in people. I mean, I love the community garden that I run. I've got a really excitable bunch of volunteers that I work with. They're really quite lively. So they're really good fun to work with as well. But it's just great to feel that you can reach out to people, whether it's doing plant swaps, whether it's helping with watering, seed saving. Seed saving is, I could talk about that for hours, but if you want to create more climate adapted crops or extreme weather resilient crops, this year, come the fall, save seed from the plants that have performed the best in, the extremities that you've had to deal with, because they are the sort of crops that you want to carry forth those traits for the future. But you don't want to save seed from everything, because that's really it's like hard work, basically. But if you can do that with others, and then you can do some swaps and shares, then it just makes it something that's much more enjoyable and doable.
Yeah, I love that idea of the community perspective. Community gardens are amazing. We talk a lot about them in different ways on the show and everything too. And again, something I hadn't thought of, as you mentioned just a little bit ago too, was this idea, with the heat rising, so does our attitudes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I never really thought about it in that way too. You're thinking of, as we're getting hotter and hotter, look what else is going on around us. People are getting angrier and angrier and all that sort of stuff too, So I think, that in this, for one, like you mentioned, which is really great, is kindness and that sort of thing, helping build community, bringing people together, doing those sort of things. And then on the natural side of things too, I mean, I'm a huge advocate. I've talked with people, arborists and people here just in my own city and everything, is just getting more trees and creating shade. And if we create a bunch more shade and cool down our spaces and our areas, maybe we could cool down some of the attitudes a little bit too. I kind of like that kind of connection of those two things and everything that we wouldn't normally be looking at or seeing, in a sense, but there's got to be some sort of connection there, right?
I absolutely think so. It's to actually put your hands in the soil, to plant seeds, to connect with, if you're whatever you're growing, say if you've got strawberries, for example, you're going to have no doubt a lot of runners right now. So why not just pot up some of those and give them to people? If there's some, if you've got too many to spare, you can take cuttings. There's all sorts of different ways that we can
sharing is a great way to start.
It's brilliant, isn't it? And it's also, it makes you feel good in the process. And I think that, you can see that a lot of people are struggling, and it doesn't take a lot to just smile or to, to lend a kind word. Although actually, I'd highly recommend not passing on, say, if you've got a surplus glut of courgettes, there are certain things that might not go well. So, you don't want to pass on things that people might not want to have because everyone else is trying to give them, say, for example, that surplus produce at the time. But within reason, it's just nice. And I also think I'm a huge advocate of money saving anyway. So, cost of living is a huge thing. In America, it is certainly in the UK. Everything is so expensive right now. So actually, the more that you can save money, the more that you can do more of a closed loop gardening within your community, within your garden. You can make some compost. You can, again, make your own mulches, do some seed saving, or even just take something that would have been sent to landfill, say it's like a chip pot, and turn it into a planter, or finding ways of taking something that would otherwise go to waste and using it in a really positive way also feels good. That can make you feel that everything isn't so out of control. It's only one item, but these little acts all add up. So it can make you feel quite empowered. And I think we really need to empower ourselves as much as we can at the moment. We need to dig deep. I wouldn't recommend digging in the soil. I'm no dig. No till, but equally, but we need to root ourselves as individuals as much as we can. I think that's incredibly important to cope with the extreme weather, but also just to cope in general. And it's also, it's there's lots of positives with this. All these things that we're talking about here, we're sort of channeling the gardeners of yore, aren't we? We're sort of channeling a bit of an old-fashioned approach to community gardening. And I think there's something rather beautiful in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go back to trees for a minute, because I saw a comment from Dusty that flashed by that hit home with me. I have 2 kids, and at the various marker points of their life, various church rituals or school things, we'd plant various trees. And I admit I wasn't maybe quite as savvy at the time on what things could become. But we have a big cherry tree. It's lovely. But oh my God, that thing sucks water out of the whole garden and sends runners everywhere. And it is really a battle. I'm like, half love you, I half curse you. And Dusty's thing was like, there can be competitions sometimes if we're not strategic about our planting and where we're doing certain things, and such that I'm starting to withdraw some of my raised beds and thinking of going to containers, deep containers, because I'm having such a battle with keeping that area watered, because the tree is obviously the specialist, much better than me at extracting all the water in the area. And I can't put it on fast enough sometimes. So it'd be interesting to hear your thoughts on that.
No, that's a really good point. No, I mean, there's so much you can say around that, but this idea of right plant, right place is just absolutely essential. Right tree, right place. So you see a lot of the time, actually, with, I mean, just to use an example, new builds. So the community garden again that I do, that it was a building site when I took over when we were coming out of the pandemic in 2020, and the soil was really poor, and there was a lot of misplanted trees and hedging that were actually, we had a lot of heat that year as well, and they were really struggling. So, there is a lot of this, and with town planning, again, that can be an implication. I mean, I've actually got, I've got a beech tree, a huge beech tree next to my house. I'm not quite sure how old it is, but from an insurance perspective, it shouldn't be that close to the house, because we had big storms here the year before last, and a lot of trees came down in Wales. So there can obviously be issues about, the health of the tree as well, it being so close to a property. So it's not just a quick fix, but again, there's lots of advice that's sort of freely available. Reach out, research it, and see what you can do. Conversely, my gardens have also flooded. So they flooded, goodness, it would have been about 2013, 2014. So when I say they flooded, they were underwater for weeks on end, basically. Wow. And there was a risk of agricultural chemical runoff as well. Oh. So all the crops that were in the ground were just ruined. I had to start again. So one of the things that I did was I created, using trees and using shrubs, lots of edible soft fruits, I created a bioswale. So a bioswale is to use trees and plants in a way that provides protection against the risk of flooding. So that taps into the benefits of what you were saying, Mark, about that they can soak up a lot of water. So they absolutely can, which can be a benefit if there's a risk of flooding, but not in an area, obviously, that's going to cause issues. So it does require researching, definitely.
Yeah, I know you're a big fan of permaculture, and that's really one of the great initial points of any permaculture book is like spend time observing your site. Don't jump right in. And I'm guilty as gardeners. I think we're all guilty of jumping right in. We buy things on impulse. It's like that looks good, or going through the fruit tree catalog. It's like, I like this, I want to plant it, and you sometimes don't know enough about the interactions, what's already there, the soil, what other plants need in the area. So it's always worth spending some time doing some deep observation, isn't it?
This is it, absolutely. But I think also one of the things I'm always keen to say to people is to try and reduce the guilt, because with all the courses I've done and talks I've done over the years, common thread is that so many gardeners feel guilty. They feel guilty all the time, even highly experienced gardeners, about just a multitude of different things. And I think try and reduce the guilt. You know, we all make mistakes. It's how you learn. And actually, it's part of the process. We don't know everything. Gardening is constantly evolving, especially with obviously what we're having to deal with right now in the world. You never know completely everything. Just keep adapting. There are on the ground solutions that will help with extreme weather. So there's that, but keep experimenting. I'm experimenting constantly. I'm pushing the boundaries of what can be done to actually see what is possible. And I think that is absolutely integral. But your gardens, it's really hard to keep your gardens looking completely immaculate all year round. And actually, I think a lot of gardeners feel guilty because they look at TV shows and they look at the gardens they see on TV shows or they see on Instagram. And, their garden doesn't look like that, especially not after an extreme weather event. But, the reality is that the TV gardens, obviously, it's not just one person doing that. There's a whole load of people behind the scenes that are actually tending the gardens. And, on Instagram, people tend to share images of the best parts of their garden as well.
Yep. Uh-oh. Looks like we lost Mark this time. What's going on? Let's see here. I'm sure he'll be right back with us, though, too. But all right. Yeah. Again, we're having fun here. Something's going on with our system here today. But again, maybe we can talk a little bit more, too, about some of and I know you mentioned here and talk about in the book as well, too, just different methods of, again, chapter 4, saving resources, reducing water by capturing like rainwater and things like that, too.
I got kicked out. Further ideas. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. Here you are. You're back, though.
I'm back. Thankfully, the tech gods saw fit to be inclusive again.
Right on. Well, I was just asking Kim about talking a little bit about, saving, chapter 4 in the book, saving resources. We're talking about water here and rain and these sort of things, but some of these things that we can do to kind of ensure, that we've got the resources we need in our garden, like rainwater capture is a big one. There was one I saw recently, and I think it was from someone up in your area in Portland too, where the guys were getting the city to change how they put the curbs so that the water can flow into these little areas where they keep their trees and their different shrubs and stuff. Maybe it was down in Arizona, somewhere in Mexico,
Arizona,
maybe.
Yeah, there's a guy down in Arizona who's been on a one man. He kind of did it in a guerrilla style, which I think I just came across that in your book, Guerrilla Gardening, and just this kind of these guerrilla actions and that's guerrilla, not gorilla, not like but like that's more kind of like a warrior kind of style where you do it without permission. And that is an interesting, to me, that's an interesting act of resistance gardening, because in a way, sometimes the systems are so slow to catch up that individuals see what's needed. And sometimes you just have to go and do it, even if there's a small price to be paid or a risk, that if you do it and then it succeeds, like I think that guy in Arizona, it was Andrew Millicent's channel. He was featuring the project. And the whole system then adopted what he did, but he did it when it was illegal to do it. So it's crazy in that sense, but he saw clearly, he's like, we're wasting water. We could be bringing it into here and growing native plants and improving our environment and growing trees. But right now we're wasting it down the sewers. So here, let me take this. I don't know how he did it. He went out at night or something and he had a concrete saw, which is not a really inconspicuous act. And, he made a couple of cuts and he knocked out a section so that the water could flow into this basin. But
goodness me.
Kind of a permaculture approach to urban spaces.
Yeah, this is it. And I mean, I have a couple of large IBC units, so I can store a lot of rainwater. But you're right. I mean, if say if you had, because obviously if you've got a heat wave, then if you get rain, well, obviously you get rain at some point, but it can't permeate into the soil when the soil's so dry. So then you can get the risk of flash flooding very quickly. And, certainly there's been campaigning in the UK with, people that have lots of concrete. concrete in their front gardens. It could be to have like parking ports and things. So actually you need to have capacity for that water to run away. Slow it, sink it, spread it, as they say in permaculture circles. But actually, if you have a risk of flooding, and if, you know, for say if you have a row of terraced houses, if everybody was to even just put out a dustbin to collect some of that water, that can massively help to reduce the risk of flooding. So working together with others is absolutely key. And I think, you know, you can, if you have a hoop tunnel, there's the solutions where you can collect rainwater off that. I just think collect rainwater at each and every opportunity as much as you can, so it's actually there. And making use of, for example, the leaves. I know you've got the big Leave the Leaves campaign. I was sort of familiar with. There's a lot of traction around that. Obviously, that can be a wildfire risk as well. So you need to be careful to an extent with that. But leaf mold is such an amazing soil improver. It's absolutely fantastic. And there's so much that you can actually source for free that is in your garden to help build resilience. And I saw a comment someone said about homemade compost and just improving the capacity of your soil to deal with drought, and also to deal with an excess of rain. The more you can build resilience in your soil, the better that will be overall. So, and you know, in the UK at the moment, I mentioned with our heat wave after heat wave, I've just been mulching with a lot of these freely available materials. You know, using ground cover plants, protecting the soil, and a lot of this is free. It's free to work with. I mean, I think there's often a perception that to be a really good gardener, it costs money, but actually a lot of the best solutions are completely free that you can actually source locally in your area. And from a permaculture perspective, I think, look at what there is. So look at, I've got somebody I know, they go and collect leaves from other people's gardens so they can make more leaf mold. There's things you can do that, you know, you could be helping someone at the same time, as well as then securing more of a soil improver for yourself.
I'm one of those folks who goes around the neighborhood to collect bags of leaves from my neighbors so that I can have plenty of those leaves and everything too. I think also another thing I was thinking about as well too, because, you know, again, we're having a little bit different summer. Mark and I touched on this a little bit, but even during like this last winter and everything, it just kind of felt like maybe it was a little wetter than usual and that sort of thing too, right? But at the same time, there's this perception shift that's kind of happening as well too in these thoughts, because I'm thinking, oh, everything's kind of wet, but you still want to be collecting rain. You still want to be doing certain things because, again, things have been drying up for so many years so much that really even what it looks like plenty of rain through our winter time, or more rain than usual, I guess, like I said, there's a perception shift or whatever, you know, that it's still not enough, really, you know what I mean? And that's something that we see already as we're getting started in our summer here is we here, and I was going to share this with everybody real quick here. We have just right up north of me right now, a big, huge wildfire. And let's see here. I'm going to pop this up here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this one here. This is our East Evans fire. This is just right outside. I mean, we're looking at this every day, right in my valley here and everything. In fact, let's see here if I got this here as well. A little thing I shot the other.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's just, you know, coming right up outside of our town and everything, you know, and you know, even though we thinking like, oh wow, you know, look at this rain and it was a nice wet winter and all that, it still wasn't enough precipitation as all that stuff gets just soaked up, or like you said, in some ways kind of drains away off somewhere, and we're still really dry from all these previous years that things are still hitting us really hard and everything too. So I think there is a real importance to, you know, finding, you know, this water resilience in a way that, you know, collecting our rainwater, doing these sort of things like these projects and stuff to be able to, you know, with the curbs and everything, I thought was really fascinating and everything. But let's, you know, I wanted to kind of talk about that and touch on that too, because this is a situation that's going on, and, you know, and I'm not sure exactly over in Europe and that sort of thing, but I know all throughout Canada, as we mentioned earlier, is, you know, there's fires going on like crazy. So a lot of folks on the East Coast and in Midwest and all of that are dealing with a lot of this fire smoke that's coming through. We've got our West Coast fires that are really kicking in and all of that sort of stuff. So maybe we could talk about a little bit too, because you touch about this in the book as well too, is kind of like this wildfire resilience too, things that we could be doing around our garden spaces, our homes, and some things like that too, to kind of mitigate some of our risk from some fires that could be possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I did a reel last week about the risk of compost heaps. So we love our homemade compost making, but actually during when there's a wildfire risk, compost can ignite. And if you have a lot of dry woody material on top, then obviously normally we want to encourage the heat, don't we, to aid the decomposition, so you get your lovely compost, but it can cause a massive issue. So in the case of compost heap, you need to turn the compost heap over, add more green materials, and actually water the compost just to help with that. I mean, from an overall wildfire risk perspective as well, it's recommended to create a protection zone around your house. So to make sure that, looking at sort of 2-3 meters, make sure it's debris free. If you have grass that's long and dry, cut it short as well, because that can be flammable. If you've got, for example, sometimes I forget to clean the gutters of leaves around my house. So again, you just want to remove the leaves. You want to remove anything that could ignite. And it could be good to have also, if you have an area that is this protection zone, if there's an ongoing risk, then have maybe pots that are movable, because you don't want it to look barren for the rest of the year. So maybe have some movable pots so you can create a nice attractive area, but they can then be moved out of the way. And also use water if you can, whether there's a way of having, you could, obviously soak down the ground, the foliage, the grass, but also maybe create a feature, create a reel. There's different ways of working with that depending on how bad the risk is on an ongoing basis. But there's also risk from ash. So we're talking about wildfire smoke. So that's an issue. It could be there are contaminants in the ash as well. So there's different risks with that, but also you can there's things you can do. You can get breathable netting to cover your plants. If your plants are in pots, you can bring the pots in. You can use water to actually wash the ash off. I mean, plants are very resilient. They can generally, especially perennials, they can generally shake off quite a few things. You'd be amazed how much a plant that has maybe been heat scorched can then grow back. So there is a lot of hope. The natural world has the propensity to adapt and to change. I mean, it's no longer seasonality as usual. We know that it's extremes. So it's about adapting to whatever it is we're finding at that particular time and working with it. But it's also about, I think with that, from a wildfire perspective and a sort of ash perspective, just look after yourself as well, because you don't want to be breathing that in. So think about the plants, but also think about your own health as a gardener.
You're talking about breathing. Yeah, definitely. Bring out those masks, do everything, all that sort of stuff. And I'm telling you, it gets so bad, especially with a fire like we've got that's just right here. When the wind turns in one direction, I was just talking to Mark the other day. I was like, man, it fills up our valley like a bowl of soup. And, we all got to be walking around inside that and everything as well, too. But also, again, maybe Mark, you can talk about this just a little bit, though, as well, is, you're talking about ash coming down, for one, washing off our plants and what that can do to our plants. I've seen a little bit of leaf burn at times that, when we've had a lot of ash build up on certain plants to a little bit. But also, it gets into our soil. And, if you're really in an area like where I'm at and ash is just really falling down because the fire is like right there, that's going to build up into the soil. So, again, what are these kind of things, like maybe alkalinity or something, some things that could be changing in the soil composition and things because of that, or have you put any thoughts to that sort of thing as we deal with different fires in your garden?
The one thing that I think is the biggest concern is if things burn that are non-natural and then you get contaminants. I mean, that to me is would be the biggest thing. Like when some of these communities in California, like Paradise, got just leveled, or Pasadena, or whatever, people coming back to garden there have to, I'm not so, obviously a large accumulation of ash could change the pH of the soil and such, but I'm not so concerned with that as much as I am the heavy metals and the plastic residues and things that are just chemically transform and then get carried and deposited. And then I think that that's a whole different concern and requires a lot of, obviously, analysis of the soil, chemical analysis for possible hazards, and then maybe a container gardening approach or something that's going to allow you to take control of the soil and import stuff that is clean. Because I would say those are the toxins seem the biggest concern for me when a community burns and then all the toxins become airborne in land places. That seems very dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a risk of flooding, so if you get a flooding, often there can be contamination in floodwaters. So
that's right.
Similar thing, isn't it? So it's just such a moving thing that it's adapting to what those risks are. But like you say, container gardening, a form of cover as well. Is there a way of providing some sort of cover for plants? If they're in containers, can they be brought in? It's thinking about all these different eventualities, which, it's going to be personal depending on exactly where you are and what you can do. But 100%. But also looking after the human, I think, again, I can't emphasize that enough, that so often people feel guilty that there's this and there's that, but we really have to look after ourselves. We really have to with this. And, do that. If it means losing a couple of plants, we have to prioritize ourselves.
No, I think that's a great point of emphasis, is that a lot of these sort of conditions, especially wildfire conditions, of course our plants, maybe the ash a little bit, that sort of thing, I've seen some damage, but that's a lot of carbon, and that's what plants are for, is to filter carbon and to do a lot of that sort of stuff too. So they are, in some perspective, are probably going to be more okay through a lot of these sort of wildfire type of conditions than we are, and we got to be really looking out for that. In fact, I think, what was that comment, or Dusty was saying, it's so hot, a mask, right? But and again too, when it comes down to it, I mean, those particulates are they're not good. It's just to be breathing in. Get out there with that mask, save your lungs.
I mean, if you've been out in anything, like I think I've noticed that even in anything over 100 AQI air quality, my lungs start to hurt after a little while. It doesn't take very long. You feel it. It's like, okay, something unhealthy is going on here. I do not feel good. So even if it's hot, I put on a mask because it's like, I don't want pain in my lungs. And then obviously as the numbers go up, when you're in the 200s and 300s and higher, it can be really hazardous. So I would put a mask on no matter how hot it was if I needed to go out, just for that lung protection effect.
When you see and experience it as thick as it is, like around here, there's just you got to be doing that.
One of the things that's been talked about a lot in the UK at the moment is with the heat wave after heat wave is, it's breaking loads of different records in terms of temperatures, but it's the nighttime heat that means that people aren't sleeping, and that is hugely hazardous for health.
Right.
So, it's, if people are vulnerable, if they're not sleeping properly, it really impacts on their health and worse. So it's all these different factors, isn't it? How to stay cool. Again, it's adapting, but the more that you can share ideas with others, the more that you can reach out and help each other. Again, I just can't re-emphasize that enough, really. Even that grumpy neighbor down the road, reach out. I'm sure they're grumpy for a reason. Just reach out as much as you can. And the more that you can feel connected with your garden, with those that are around you, the better that will feel overall, because there is hope for the future. And I think, there are solutions. We're just in this massive state of flux. So we just need to find those adaptations. But there are so many positive things happening in the world in a grassroots level. There's so many great things that are going on right now. We just don't read about it. We don't hear about it so much, but there's all sorts of positivity. It's, and I think the more that we can see that and create that a little bit ourselves, that just feels better. It's no quick fix solution, but it just feels a lot better overall.
I like that.
Well,
Kindness as an adaptation.
Yeah, just bringing together like what we talked about at the beginning, going into your garden to recharge, to restore, but then also just using the garden as a tool to draw together with other people, to just try things, right? I mean, as you said, just a great place for experimentation, to try things, share what we learn, and realize that we're part of this evolving human community. No matter what we do today, for 20 years, for maybe 100 years, we're already going to have to deal with climate change, and it's a very slow moving force that is upon us. So there's no reversing it. We're not going to plant 10 trees each and solve climate change. So I think we just need to figure out, okay, we're in this, and we are going to have to grope our way through and try to find solutions together and use our gardens as ways to do that.
Absolutely. And as gardeners, we are so connected to the natural world through the very fact that we garden as well. We are custodians of our little patch of green or brown, as the case of my grass at the moment with the heat waves. But you know, it gives us that capacity. And you know, you get a couple of gardeners talking. You know, you just reach out local garden centre, and it's great. We have so much common ground, and although obviously the extremes that you're experiencing right now are different to the extremes that we're experiencing in the UK, we are all gardeners together. And you know, the more that we can work together like this, the better it is. And there's all sorts of solutions. You know, the natural world does hold an awful lot of answers, actually, from you know, again, challenges with natural pest control to allowing the outside space to grow a little wild. You know, not stop trying to control the garden quite so much. Let it help. You can learn so much from watching the garden and just seeing how it adapts, to see where plants want to grow, rather than where, for example, you're trying to get them to grow. There's lots of things like this that actually will help massively. I mean, I don't have a lot of time to garden because I'm busy with all different projects that I do. But for me, it's about enjoyment. It's about picking produce. It's about connecting with the natural world, walking around, looking, learning, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Obviously, some sides of the natural world not quite so beautiful, but you know, we've touched upon that earlier. But maybe if you're having a bad day, focus on the bees and the butterflies rather than something that's biting something else.
Exactly, right. Let's see here real quick. James popped up a few good questions for us. I thought I'd throw this one at you here before we finish up. Throughout the book, healthy soil almost becomes a central character. What changed your understanding of soil over the years?
That's a really good question. Thank you. I think really the flooding that I experienced around about 2013, and that was a big step in that direction, because I was writing about my experiences of trying to garden for free for The Guardian, and then my garden's completely flooded. So that did help, actually, because I thought, oh great, this is material, rather than, you know, the travesty of actually what happened. But the reason the garden's flooded is because because I'm on a homestead, the field at the back, the farmer, it was previously used for livestock grazing, and the farmer turned it over to grow some kind of fodder crop. So the previous capacity of the soil, the grass, to actually hold and retain a great deal more moisture and rain was immediately diminished. Then we had obviously at the same time, we had a lot of rain. It's West Wales. It generally, at that time of year, in the autumn, does get quite wet. And there was just nothing there to hold the water back. So, the garden's flooded. And so then I started researching more into the different techniques of no-till, looking at the benefits, researching about soil life. And I did actually, when I first moved here almost 17 years ago, I bought a rotavator, because that's what you were supposed to do. So you're supposed to get a rotavator, and I used it once or twice and saw the damage that it did, churning, devastation in its wake, and immediately realized that was not the way that I was going to do this. So, and the more you research, the more you look into it, the more I realized that soil life was absolutely key. And it's, your soil is the beating heart, the soul, the everything of your garden. So nurture that natural resilience. I mean, actually, because I've experienced so much drought, because my water supply does run incredibly dry, that actually what's really interesting is how much mycorrhizae fungi has actually developed in the soil, particularly in my hoop tunnels. The ground is laden with fungi that enables this greater resilience, and it enables the plants to cope with a lot less water. So the soil can adapt in really quite interesting ways. You're obviously carbon capturing as well if you don't turn the soil over. And again, you want to boost this natural resilience, work with perennials. You get all these amazing symbiotic relationships between plants beneath the soil that we don't understand. We don't understand what goes on. Maybe we don't want to look too close, but equally it works. So it's brilliant. And the more we can nurture that, the better. So absolutely. And I will try and boost natural resilience as much as possible. And I will always start with the soil. I will always protect the soil, mulch it, nurture it. It's absolutely key.
Yes. Soil is king.
Soil is queen.
Queen and king, all of it. It's the number one. It's our top priority as gardeners, really.
Really is.
And put your hands in the soil if you can as well. If you don't have any kind of skin allergy, try and get connected as well. It's also good for you to do that.
Yeah, mood boosting, right? Bacteria.
It is definitely
a boost. Serotonin.
Yeah, play with soil.
Yeah.
I wanted to, before we finish up here too, again, time's flying by all quick. I just love these conversations and everything. But you did mention you got other projects and stuff. I did mention a little bit earlier, you're also editor of Amateur Gardening Magazine. So you've got this great book you've written for sure, Climate Change Resilient Vegetable Garden, but you do all sorts of great garden writing. You want to talk on that just a little bit? Maybe just kind of some of your history of garden writing, some of the future projects maybe in writing and things that you've got coming up and all of that too. So tell us a little bit about some of this other writing adventures you're on.
Thank you. I do a lot of commenting just in general, so living, etc. I've done some writing for Gardening Know-How. I just love talking about this. I don't know if you can tell. So I really enjoy it. I love these last minute asks because I just get excitable talking about this. And
well, good to know we can call on you.
Definitely. No, absolutely. No, please do. I love your show. And also, I suppose the best thing to do is on Instagram, I'm Kim_Stoddart. And there's also my website, greenrocketcourses.com, although it does need a bit of updating, if I'm honest. But that's a good way of actually keeping up to date with what I'm doing. There's a podcast that I'm going to be launching later in the year, but I can't really talk about it yet. But I can just say that there's a podcast. So there's lots of things. I've always got loads of projects up my sleeve. So, but I think the website and the Instagram is probably the best way if you wanted to find out what I'm doing.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about being editor of Amateur Gardening Magazine. How did that come about?
Oh, I love it. It's the world's oldest gardening magazine, and it's an absolute privilege to be editing the magazine. And the magazine actually fleetingly went under. This was October 2023. So my publisher, Kelsey, it was covered widely in the national press in the UK. Because Alan Titchmarsh was former deputy editor, and there's just a lot of love for the magazine. So my publisher saw this and they immediately jumped in and bought the magazine because they could see that there was a huge potential, and they needed someone who had a lot of obviously editing experience, but someone that was also very entrepreneurial, because I've previously run businesses, still run businesses. So, I was tasked with looking at the magazine, bringing it back, giving it a rebrand so that it still had the amateur gardening, beautiful, practical, down-to-earthness that everybody loved, but equally making it relevant to a wider audience as well for the future. So it's been completely sustainable in its approach ever since I took over in October 2023. But it's very inclusive, it's very non-judgmental, it's about offering hope and solutions for the future. You can actually get a digital version of it as well in the States and, around the world. It's the print version's obviously just in the UK, but also it's about we use humor, we use the latest practical down-to-earth advice, but we have a very friendly family of leading gardening experts. So we have this community of like absolute legends that, again, they're there for our readers every fortnight, and it's doing really well. It's one of the top-selling gardening magazines, I'm pleased to say, in the UK.
Yes.
So it has been completely transformed.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful.
That is what a great thing to say, that you took a magazine that was going down, that was loved but wasn't making it, and you brought it back. What a beautiful story.
Oh, I knew I had to do it when I first heard about this as well. It was a privilege. So it just tapped into all my experience, and I've got an amazing team. The team are absolutely fantastic. So it's such a joy to do.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Wow, yeah, and so is this conversation. And again, like I said, time flies. I mean, we got a 2-hour show, and it feels like we just got started. And I want to keep going and keep talking about everything too. And again, Kim, it's just so wonderful you jumped on with us and last minute and everything. I'll keep you in my book for maybe something down the road as well too, because again, it is just really wonderful talking to you. You got a lot of great information. And again, as we touched some great history on writing and talking about gardens and garden spaces and everything too. So plenty more to talk about in the future for sure. But again, thank you really for being here today and hanging out with us and talking a little bit more about your book.
My absolute pleasure. It's been great. Thank you so much. I love this show as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it was really great to recircle and come back with you and go deeper, because that's not a pleasure we get with many of our authors. It's kind of like they whiz by us and it's like, and now next month we'll be doing this. So it was great to have a chance to revisit again and get a little deeper and hear more about how things are changing, but also the beautiful projects and the work you're involved in. So thank you.
No, my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll be right back. One moment. We'll finish this all up, everybody. Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. All right, here we are back at it. Well, that conversation really went well. I was, again, thinking like putting something together last minute and everything. And again, what an awesome conversation with Kim today.
Totally. And you know what I appreciate is we're talking about heavy duty stuff and many problems and global catastrophes, but Kim finds a way to weave a lot of hopefulness, a lot of care in there, and you can feel that from her. So that's really what we need to be doing, because we cannot go forward from a place of despair. That will just talk about the trees that suck the garden dry. That's like the ultimate sucker of everything. Despair will take every bit of energy you have, and we need to stay grounded in positive things to do. Let the garden ground us. Let our energy come from that, and move forward together. I think that's a great way to go. Yeah,
and then be proactive and be getting into our community and connecting with other people. I love those parts of what we were talking about as well too, because that is a big thing going on. I never made that connection really and thought about it that much about, the rising heat temperatures of the globe is also raising our, the temperatures of our attitudes and different things as well too, and there's just something that we can really do proactively in building community, helping folks out, sharing with others, doing these sort of things that are really, really important for us to connect as people better in a world where we're just so easily disconnected.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Yeah. We're all on edge. As Kim said many times, the world is changing faster. I think let me get my quotable quote here. It is a fast-moving beast. I like that. It's like this big, huge thing that's scurrying across the landscape. It's like, what was that? It's a fact. You can't get a grasp on it. Every day, the news seems like it's a new assault, a fresh new assault on your senses and what used to be. So, we have to take care of ourselves, and our gardens are a big part of that for us and for our neighbors and for our world.
Yes, absolutely. So, all right, everybody, link down below. Go check out the Climate Change Resilient Vegetable Garden by Kim Stoddart. And again, too, go check out all of her other stuff, Instagram, everything. Follow along with her. Just a really wonderful, wonderful person, gardener, writer, all of that sort of stuff. And awesome of her to jump in this weekend. And again, everybody who is wanting to see Mark Valencia's conversation with him on his book 100 Top Crops, we will be doing that in just a couple more months. We're rescheduling with him as he is excited about being on the show. Just something came up, and that's just how life is when it comes down to it. But real quick here, though, let's talk about, we've got another book coming up this next month, and I'm kind of really excited about this one. I saw this gentleman on Joe Lample's podcast talking about this book, and I was like, oh man, I got to talk with him about this. We got to get him on our book club, and so this month and this next month we're featuring Charlie Nardozzi's Continuous Vegetable Garden, the Continuous Vegetable Garden. And Charlie's just a great garden personality, and I can't wait to dig into his book and read all about it and then talk with him about it. Again, third Sunday of next month, August.
Yeah, he's been on the garden scene for a long time, and I've seen his name and some of his talks at the Northwest Flower and Garden Show. So it's going to be a privilege and a pleasure to talk with him in person.
Yeah. So that'll be August 16th, third Sunday of the month. Come join with us to talk about the Continuous Vegetable Garden with Charlie Nardozzi. All right.
I like that. I like that word continuous. It's just like, it just makes you immediately think of the whole cycle of the year. It's like gardening can be happening the whole cycle of the year.
Yeah.
When people say, when's the best time to plant something? I usually always kind of in a wise guy kind of way, but also true, saying now. It's like
now.
It's like there's always something to be planted.
Yeah. Awesome. Excellent. And real quick here, I'm just going to run through this real quick. We'll finish right up. I didn't do this earlier, which I'm just now noticing, but did you get the chance to check out yesterday's show? Yesterday, we had Brian Lowell on with us from Next Level Gardening and the gardens at Sky Ridge on YouTube. Just an awesome conversation with him. We had our good friend Chad from Down Home Backyard Gardening joining with us for our Are You Following Me segment. And he stuck around as a co-host with our conversation with Brian yesterday. So that was really fun. I've had two co-hosts in a row. I always love it when you guys help pull the weight off of my interviewing shoulders, but it's so fun. It was a great conversation with Brian yesterday. Last week, real quick too, we had James Weston, Farm Boy James, with us, and Angela from the Hippie Chick Homestead. And the Sunday edition, we had a little look around our gardens. Jay and I did a kind of a photo look around all of our different garden spaces and all of that. And then for next week on the show, 2 days in a row, Saturday and Sunday, we're back here again, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We've got community shows both Saturday and Sunday. So let's get the word out to all of our friends out there. Let them know, come and join us on the show. Yes, community shows are where you, the audience, are the guest.
I like that. You got the big finger there. Wait a second. I got to orient. Like Uncle Enoch wants you.
That's right. Yes, you. So come and join us. I'll share the link with everybody, and we'll have you on as the guest for our show, kind of like a call-in radio show we do there. But I look forward to seeing everybody next week. Should be real fun, and hopefully you guys come and join us for our community show. So all right, everybody. We'll see all of you next Saturday. We'll see you then.
right, they're gonna run. See you on the flippy flops.